This video is supported by NordVPN, the cybersecurity tool for the world we now live in. It didn't seem appropriate to celebrate at the end of the last video considering its topic, so here it is now, 100,000 subscribers. Thanks for being here. Your questions have been coming in since the last video, and today I'll be doing my best to answer them. Let's go. What is your favourite country ball? It's a little bit cliche, but I like the USA in pole and ball form. He's so iconic, cool and confident, yet arrogant, loud, fat and stupid, that he embodies all the stereotypes of Americans. He's such a well-rounded character that he's even been elected president. Which world region is the most exciting politically right now? I really want to know what Saudi Arabia is doing. They seem to be selectively westernizing domestically and becoming increasingly bellicose internationally. All of the Gulf region is, in fact. If you became the autocrat of any civilization in history, which one would it be and why? I'd like to avoid being assassinated if at all possible, so maybe 20th century Spain? I don't have to agree with Franco's work to replace him, do I? It's also got great weather, good food, and I have the opportunity to practicar mi español. What is your educational background? Do you have any qualifications in history, or are you just really into it? GCSEs in humanities, A-levels in sciences, degree in writing. Jack of all, master of none. For everything else, there's no special formula, I just read. What are some of your favourite flags, and what are your favourite flags in pole and ball form? Drawing them over and over again gives you a vexillological appreciation that I don't think many other things give you. Greece is surprisingly a pain in the arse to draw. Iran isn't as difficult as it looks. Afghanistan can go to hell. And anything with unique imagery like South Korea, Mongolia or Canada is always fun to use. But in practical terms, thank God that Europe is filled with tricolores, that's all I can say. Which video was the hardest to make? In What the Gulf and the Balkan Century, it was really difficult to research and to find writing on genocide and Islam from a disinterested position. For both of those, I was also afraid of the YouTube demonetization ban hammer, which struck a fatal blow in the last video, sadly. How do you feel about the comment sections of your videos? I don't like the layout of YouTube comments, and you know as well as me the reputation that they have. The comments don't bring up anything new after the first few days, so it's not really interesting or useful beyond that initial period. I don't really take part in them anyway, preferring other forums for talking, but it's always nice to see what people say. I've modded on internet forums before, so I've no problem with removing comments and shadow banning. Considering the topic of conversation, it's probably necessary to prevent the inevitable as much as reasonable. Several of your videos were in part based on or inspired by Peter Zeihan's work. How accurate do you think the predictions are, if at all? Obviously, it's impossible to predict for certain what will happen, but Zeihan is a proper expert and has worked in this field for a long time. Governments do work with advisors to strategize. The fact that Zeihan has had these predictions or foresights and has worked with people in high places makes it more likely for them to happen, as people in these positions with the same information might have come up with these same insights independently, or they might have even read the book, and they'll have the ability to affect the strategies and recommendations. History tells us to take a contextual pinch of salt with our source, however. To paraphrase George Orwell, the most commercially successful forecasters are those who play on nationalist pride regardless of their accuracy. And there's no doubt that Zeihan does do that considering the titles of his books. Were he Hungarian, forecasting the wild success of Hungary, he might also be successful in Hungary, but less likely to be correct or taken seriously. I take predictions as less of, these are the events that 100% will happen, and more as, these are the most interesting, plausible situations, these are the situations that could and would happen, and they will also make this book a good read. What's your opinion on Fukuyama's End of History essay? It's a very vain endeavour for someone in the Western world to write about the world being the finished product, especially as someone for whom the world seems to work about as well as it can, and liberal democracy shouldn't be taken for granted as he seems to do in the essay. This form of government doesn't gain popularity out of nowhere. Just look at the amount of money and manpower put into enforcing the states of the Middle East. That shows that liberalism doesn't just spring out of nowhere and remain an invulnerable inevitability. It's obviously difficult to directly refute anything and everything he says, because hypothesizing the form of government to succeed Western liberal democracy necessarily means delving into the uncertain realm of prediction as well. What got you interested in history and drawing? For history, pole and ball. For drawing, the Beano and the Dandy. What controversial opinions do you hold? What we have now is not democracy, and it's overrated by miles. And I don't think war and violence are necessarily evil. Do you have any advice for aspiring pole and ball artists? Why are you aspiring? Aspiring isn't a thing you do for something with such a low barrier to entry. For making comics, you just have to have a joke you want to tell. It doesn't matter if it's ugly. The very first comics that everyone makes are probably very ugly. Just start, and your art will improve through practice. Do you think World War III could happen? The ability to cross front lines is too easy, and the potential penalty for having a front line is far too high. Why would you declare war and risk nuclear retaliation when you can fight proxy guerrilla warfare with plausible deniability? Interstate conflict has never been rarer and wars are no longer even declared. But paradoxically, our modern nations seem to be constantly at war with invisible opponents. We could actually be in the midst of a Third World War, but it's incomparable to the second. What made you want to start this channel? Many of the things I made were quite frankly just unsuitable for comics. More about that later. Considering the political nature of your content, is it hard to stay impartial or unbiased? I like being a devil's advocate, and it's usually easy understanding both sides of an argument even if I personally come down on one side. Too many people just throw their opinion into the ether, expecting people to respect it, but I'm under no illusion that anyone would want my opinion unless I'd earned it. Any recommendations for other YouTubers? Similar channels? There are just far too many to mention, so here are just a few that I've been watching recently. Friendly Geordies. I don't know Australian politics, but I do like funny voices. Frank Howarth. Woodworking is like meditation. Cogito. He does all the subjects that I would never think of doing. Brain4breakfast. I hear that guy is quite good. Are you a fan of football or soccer? Liverpool? Artillery only? Suicide. If you could change history so that one former country that no longer exists could remain to this day, which one would you like to see most / would be the most interesting and why? An independent neutral Moresnet, because the world needs more microstates. Gold standard or paper money? Zloty. Favourite Paul and Ball comic? Sweden and Thailand? Are there any videos you've wanted to do but are afraid of not doing thorough enough research and misrepresenting the situation? Terrorism. What's one obscure country that you'd like to highlight? Niger. 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 Any ideas for upcoming videos? Yes. Where do you sit on the political spectrum? I don't sit, I moonwalk. Is history a science? Historians definitely use the sciences in their work, like anthropology, archaeology, and all the other ologies. Otherwise, it's just semantics. What countries have you been to? As an adult, surprisingly few. 6 on 2 continents. Why do you make videos and how do you make them? What do you want to be when you grow up? I wanted to be an author, a comic artist, a musician, a filmmaker. I had enough surface knowledge to function as an amateur in any of these, but never had the resources to go any further. Or maybe the truth is that I lacked the drive. At university I learned discipline, redrafting, and the giving and receiving of criticism. While at university I learned in my free time about Paul and Ball, and specifically a subreddit where people made comics and submitted them. There the moderation team had high standards and ideology about the art style, and were actually passionate about these meme spheres. There I learned discipline, redrafting, and the giving and receiving of criticism. I was eventually invited to become a mod and helped create the environment in which people wanted to take part, to uphold the standards and to prevent Paul and Ball from taking the path to low effort and cringe bollocks that all other memes seem to take. During that time, the forum grew to a few 100,000 and it still continues to grow, but I was no longer one of the top submitters. The type of content I wanted to make didn't fit the forum. Plenty funnier and more skilled artists than me made incredible creations that I could never hope to compete with. At the beginning, one of the first comics I ever submitted was a brief history of the Falkland Islands, the creation of which was motivated to shut down stupid internet arguments, with a little dash of humour. That would be the same motivation with which I would move to creating for YouTube, which demanded more and different skills, and they were fun to learn about, and it was a brand new audience. But I would bring over all the standards and skills of all the people I learned from on Reddit. I have a big list of ideas, and it takes from 5 to 15 hours of work per minute of screen time to bring a project to life. The following steps take place. Research. Drafting. Audio. Frames. Audio again. Editing. And then the video's finished. The layout of my desk has changed over time, but there's nothing different in the way that I use them. It's possible to create without using advanced tools. The first video and all of my comics before then were made with a laptop, and that was it. Software is of course quite important too, but you don't have to spend the big bucks. The one I would recommend, as you've probably guessed, is NordVPN. I haven't had a sponsor on these videos before, but if you stick with me for the next minute, I promise there's more after this brief message. When Russia and China blander up, take over the world and find you online. To avoid being fed into a gulag volcano, you want to be on the side of NordVPN. NordVPN is registered in Panama, and just like Panama, they are neutral and secure. You can protect all of your online activity with military-grade encryption on Android, iOS, PC or Mac. Recommended by everyone from Wired to CNET, NordVPN cloaks your IP address from nefarious ne'er-do-wells and even allows you to access overseas content like your K-dramas or your weird foreign sport right from the comfort of your very own home. With over 5,000 servers in 62 countries, the variety of options available is astonishing. You want to be from India? Fine. You want to be from Japan? Great. You want to be from America? Perfect. It takes mere seconds to set up, and NordVPN doesn't log user data, unlike other services. As you do all of your online shopping for the upcoming holiday season, the last thing you need is an attack from a Nigerian prince. But no problem. Hence NordVPN. Take advantage of this offer while you can. Go to nordvpn.org/brain4breakfast for a whopping 75% off a 3-year plan. That's just $2.99 a month when you use the promo code brain4breakfast. Use that code so this channel gets the credit for equipping you for the Chinese apocalypse. Click in the description for more information. You'll not only help yourself, but you'll help this channel too. Thanks to NordVPN.
Welcome to Mastermind with me, Cogito. Tonight's contestants have their work cut out for them with a place in the semi-finals at stake. And so to our first contender. Good evening, your name is...
Good evening.
Your last subject was answering the next question. Your chosen subject tonight is answering the question before last. Is that correct?
Brain for breakfast.
Your time starts now. How's life?
Yes, that's right.
Correct. What do you think about the situation in the Middle East?
It's kind of warm, but it's okay apart from that.
Correct. Is it Poland ball or country ball?
There are too many futile wars over common ground.
Correct. Are there certain regions that you believe should become their own countries?
Poland.
Correct. Do you play paradox games?
Pass.
If you could talk to any one person from history, who would it be?
Victoria. 2.
Correct. What's your favourite what-if historical scenario?
If I could tell teenage me to avoid eating a microwave pizza too soon, burning my face and getting a tomato sauce blister on my chin.
Correct. Can you into space?
If I can just make it up.
Correct. What's your favourite country ball?
I could never make that choice.
Correct. What do you think was the biggest mistake in history?
America.
Correct. What is your favourite time or region combination in history? Correct. What is your favourite Slavic country?
England.
Correct. What if Germany had won World War II?
Of Poland's many problems, delicious carbohydrates are not one of them.
Correct. What is your stance on the Macedonian naming controversy?
It doesn't bear thinking about.
Correct. North or south?
Just swap them, it's fine.
Correct. Where are you from?
The north.
Specifically.
Here.
Correct. Where is the most likely point of outbreak for the next global conflict?
Here.
Correct. What subset of German are you?
The internet.
Correct. What's your greatest strength?
I'm not German.
Correct. How many languages do you speak?
I try many things.
Correct. Can Estonia into Nordic?
Barely.
Correct. Are you gay?
I don't think there's any room in there.
Correct. Why did you deny the existence of the Macedonian people in your video by insulting us, by calling us Bulgarians, and so desperately trying not to mention us by any means until the moment you absolutely had to? Correct. Will you say... I've started, so I'll finish. Will you say "Mi no baka oni-chan" out loud?
Pass.
Brain for breakfast. You have 2 passes and you have scored 22 points. Applause.
I hope I answered your questions satisfactorily. If I didn't, just leave an angry comment on YouTube. Anyway, thanks to Cogito for being my quizmaster for the day. Check out his channel, and thanks to you for watching.